You know, y'all, every time you go out into the woods, this time of year, you're out in the woods or you're out hiking, not necessarily the woods, but you're outside. You're mowing the yard, you're hiking, you're gardening, just walking to your mailbox, bam, get bit by a tick. There's no really a way to avoid them at this time of year. Your tick bites are higher between April and I believe it's August. So they're just everywhere right now. Um, I wanted to talk about the 5 biggest mistakes that people make when it comes to ticks. And there's quite a lot. I mean, there was like 10 and I just picked the top 5, because I thought those were the most important. And I do have some notes. I didn't want to willy-nilly anything, and I wanted to share and be 100% correct. You know what I'm saying? So you're actually getting factual information and not something from some Joe Blow, if you know what I mean. Um, so I think, like today, let's talk about those top 5. And I just want y'all to get ready. So, pull up a seat, check your britches, and let's get on to it because it's crazy, y'all. So, the number one mistake that people make is thinking that the ticks live just in the woods. That's far from the truth. They live everywhere they possibly can. Um, Tall grass, your backyard, your gardens. You don't necessarily have to be in a mountainous region like we are back here. You could see all the trees in our backyard. And, we do as much as we can as far as broadcasting or spraying Promethean, but they're still out there. So just kind of don't just assume that they just live in the woods because they don't. Um, actually, the CDC actually reports that the number one place that people are bitten by ticks is usually in their own backyards or in their own neighborhoods. That's kind of scary. So, pay attention to your own backyards. Spray Promethean or broadcast because, declare war on these little suckers because they're definitely declaring it on you. So be safe. Um, and also, they don't fly and they don't jump. They basically lay on like blades of grass and they wait for you to walk by or a host, your dogs, a host that walks by. And from what they're learning is static electricity is what's picking the ticks up because they don't fly and they certainly don't jump. So that's good to know. So that's why they were saying, wear long socks tucked into your pants or tuck your pants into your socks and put on your boots and hopefully cross your fingers that you'll be okay. And number 2 is not checking yourself properly when you come in from outside. We can't just stand in front of a full-length mirror and turn around and don't see anything. So you say, cool, I'm in the clear because you're not. Ticks are very small. They're like small like a pepper flake. So they're really tiny. So you just slow down when you're doing a full body check. Take your time. They like going behind your ears. They like it back there. They're real good at eavesdroppers. Your armpits, women, your bra straps, and your bra that goes around, the strap around your waist. Your panty lines, the groin area, even the back of the knees, especially the back of the knees. That's actually where I got my tick bite, was in the back of my knee. And then on number 3 is removing a tick the correct way. A lot of people are still removing ticks like the old school way. So, not like burning it with the match or nail polish remover, essential oils, or even covering it in Vaseline. You don't want to do any of those things. The safest way is to get a fine nose tweezers and just kind of slip it underneath the tick and then pull it straight out slowly. Because if you piss that tick off, he's going to regurgitate the pathogens into your system. Or all the nastiness, you know what I'm saying? Not the pathogens, but the nastiness. He's going to spit that and regurgitate into your bloodstream, and that's the last thing you need. A lot of people recommend even like freezing them with an ice cube before you pluck them out with the tweezers. I don't know, y'all. I just think that the safest way is just to buy the tweezers. You know, a lot of people even say like put the tick in a bag and then date it, and you can, I don't know, research it that way. I don't know, like a crime scene. I don't know, y'all. I'm not going to save every single tick that I get bitten by, because you can get ticks once a day, twice a day for the rest of the summer, really. So even no matter how careful you are, you're still going to get, you know, bit. And I just think the correct way and the easiest way is just to lift that sucker. Don't be wiggling that tweezer and doing WWE moves on it, because you'll piss them off. We don't want that. So remember, no twisting, no jerks, and definitely, please don't squeeze that tick, because we don't want to upset him or her. You know what I mean? And the number 4 mistake that people are making too is ignoring your symptoms. You know, it takes like a few days to a few weeks for even a reaction to appear. But once it does, you know, don't ignore those, you know, like the itching or the GI issues, or you start getting a rash. You know, go and see your healthcare provider and let her know that you got bitten by a tick and what you suspect. And hopefully you get the right care provider that'll listen to you, because a lot of them aren't. You know, they're just dismissing it. So, you know, be your own advocate. I've said it up previously. You know, make sure you do you, because the doctors aren't. You know, the CDC did say that we have had more ER visits from tick bites than ever before in the southern parts of the United States. That's really scary. I don't know, I just imagine waking up one day and you're suddenly allergic to brisket. And it's a reality for a lot of people. You know, so that's just crazy. And the number 5 is thinking, this one's really important to y'all, that you're going to think that this isn't going to happen to me, that I am super careful and whatnot. It can, and it could happen. It can happen to you. Just, you know, be aware of that it can. I think they were saying that 1 out of every 3 people, so if you line up 3 people, 1 of you is going to get alpha-gal. That's scary. You know, you would think that the government would be doing something about this. You know, when COVID came up, they had a vaccine for COVID within months. You know, I'm not saying that this is like COVID, you know what I mean? But maybe it's not so much the government as we as the people need to take stand against these little suckers. You know, you hear people saying the best way to take care of ticks is to do burn control burns, you know, to get rid of, I've heard all kinds of different things. It's just crazy. You know, I just remember that it can happen to you. It can. I never thought that I would get sick from a tick, and lo and behold, here I am with alpha-gal. You know, ticks cover so many diseases. You know, you got the Rocky Mountain spotted fever, Lyme disease, alpha-gal, even ehrlichiosis, I think that's how it's pronounced. I'm gonna have to look at that one, but you know, guys, I don't want to like put you in a panic mode. I don't want you to panic. I just basically want y'all to be aware. You know, be aware of your surroundings, and you're outside and dress properly for being outside. Long socks, boots, even if it's 90 degrees, because I'd rather be in long socks and 100-degree weather in long socks and tucked into my, or my pants tucked into my socks than get this sack. You know, so I'd rather be uncomfortable for the half hour that I'm outside doing whatever it was that I was doing, and, you know, just to get it, you know, so, I don't know. I just don't want y'all to panic. I just want y'all to be aware. So if we go over, you know, the 5 things again, or the 5 mistakes, or, you know, that people make about the ticks, is, I can't even remember where number 1 is. I've got so many notes. Oh, number 1 was, don't just assume that they live in the mountain region or in the woods, because that's not true. Number 2 is, not checking yourself, or checking yourself too fast. You know, we want to really slow down. But, you know, it's just crazy. And where was number 3? I got a lot going on. The number 3 was removing a tick the wrong way. You know, let's just remember to remove it softly so we don't get it upset, because we don't want any of the regurgitation into your system. And then, you know, number 4 was ignoring the symptoms. And of course, number 5, I don't even know why I put number 5, y'all. But anyway, just be safe, y'all. That's the best I could do, I guess, you know. If you like this video, you know, we're trying to build up this community so we could all bounce off of each other and, you know, keep each other safe. And we really need to build a strong Alpha Gal community. So we can, it's a scary thing to have to navigate by yourself. You know, it's, you know, if your grandparents, when the grandchildren come over and, you know, say your own children are pretty busy and live busy lives, you know, check over your grandchildren. I mean, it ain't nothing to look behind their ears real quick. You know, it's just crazy. I don't know, everybody, just kind of, you know, let's take care of each other. Let's look out for each other, and let's see if we can get through this syndrome, I guess, is what they're classifying now, for gals, a syndrome. You know, we're just going to try to be safe and aware all the way into our first freeze. You know, is when the ticks will typically start to die off, is at the first freeze. You know, y'all, if you like this video, you know, remember to like, comment, you know, subscribe, you know, down below. Let us all know what you think, or maybe your worst tick story is, you know, because we kind of like to all hear the worst tick stories. I mean, I tell you, there's a lot out there, or even any tick stories, because they are all out there. Kaylee girl, she brings in ticks all the time. For the first time today, she actually let me take a vacuum nozzle, and I took a vacuum to her. She liked it. We were surprised. So everyone, thank you for joining Kaylee and I on this video. Just, you know, stay safe. You know, try to take care of yourself and keep your family healthy, and let's all just kind of build this community and see what we can do, you know, even what we can do about keeping our pets with us, because, you know, they do also carry the Alpha Gal gene, the glucose. Not a gene, it's the Alpha Gal glucose. Every mammal has it, including Kaylee Bug. So everyone, once again, please stay healthy, stay beautiful, and let's take care of each other. We'll see you on the next one.